Good morning. Japan falls to 70th in press freedom rankings. That's bad, very bad. Japan has fallen to 7th place on the 2024 World Press Freedom Index, which is published by Reporters Without Borders, RSF. Last year, Japan was 68th. It's still ranked the lowest of the OG7 countries, a group that also includes Canada, France, Germany, Italy, the UK, and the US. RSF compares the level of freedom that journalists and the media have in 110 countries and territories. Excuse me. It defines press freedom as the ability of the press to do its job without political, economic, legal, and social interference, and without members of the press facing physical or mental threats. The situation in Japan is far better than in many of the world's countries where journalists face a severe and daily danger. However, our the RSF said that in Japan, traditional and business interest, political pressure, and gender inequalities often prevent journalists from completely fulfilling their role as watchdogs. Yes. Japan's news is still dominated by traditional media, and its top two newspapers, the Yomiuri Shimbun and the Asahi Shimbun, have the highest newspaper circulations in the world according to RSF. The Paris-based organization said it has become difficult for journalists in Japan to get access to senior officials, and those who are granted access feel they have to censor themselves to keep that access. RSF added that it's also difficult for independent news organizations, freelance reporters, and foreign journalists to get access to high level press conferences. RSF said Japanese journalists have a relatively safe working environment but face harassment on social media when they criticize the government. Well, actually, it's a harassment from the Japan nation, probably. Norway was at the top of the list for press freedom ahead of its neighbors Denmark and Sweden. The top 13 countries are all in Europe. Of the 32 countries and territories, geez, what am I reading? Territories ranked in the Asia Pacific region, 26 had worse scores for press freedom this year compared to 2023. Eritrea in Northeast Africa was at the bottom of the list, while North Korea was 177th out of 180. China was 172nd. Meanwhile, the UK was 23rd, the US was 55th, and South Korea was 62nd. So we are lower than South Korea, are we? Yes. Jeez. Discussion. What are your thoughts on the 2024 World Press Freedom Index? I think those things are very important to know, yes. Do you find it concerning that press freedom declined in 26 out of 32 Asia Pacific countries this year? Yes. Yes. Would you say censorship is common in your country? Has this changed over the years? I think it hasn't changed at all. Yeah. Do you consider journalism to be a dangerous profession? Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, it depends on which area you are working on, but if you were a journalist, what kind of topics would you be interested in covering? I probably wouldn't say. Further discussion. Where do you usually get your news from? Do you ever buy print newspapers? I never buy print newspapers. I always check in the web. What would you say are the most reliable news outlets in your country? What news stories have you been following closely lately? Are you generally more interested in global or local news stories? I think global. Yeah. Freedom of the press is not just important to democracy, it is democracy. Walter Cronkite. What do you make of this quote? Yes, itself is democracy. Yeah, true.